Islam family. I'd rather give honors to all of you for coming. Give honors to all the active Moors, and just get into this class today, which is going to be on the jurisdiction of the MSTA and discussing some of the discrepancies, between the understanding of the MSTA as it relates to Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Gold Canaanite Temple, and the movement as a whole. Right. So I'm Tesba Sarbay, chairman of Temple in Canaanland. This is Monday, April 2nd, 2012, and we'll just start off with the Moorish American prayer, 5 on the left and 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Mother and Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation, by night and by day, through his and our holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Amin. Ashe. Hotep. Islam. Peace, family. So, first off, we have to make some assumptions, or we have to clear some things up, right? In terms of what it is that we're involved in, and what the jurisdiction is of the different pieces of this movement, right? So the first thing that is understood is that we're part of a movement, right? A global, universal movement, if you want, right? And we call that the Moorish Divine and National Movement. So the Moorish Divine and National Movement is a movement to, whether people know it or not, bring the people who want to live the lifestyle that their ancestors lived, according to their own ways, all around the world, to help bring those people back into that way of life, without having to fight wars necessarily, without having to come into contention with anybody and take anybody's stuff or do anything untoward, right? That's why it's a divine movement as well, because it's on the positive. Whatever has to be done has to be done. You know what I mean? And, when fires come, people get burned. That's within the context of each situation, right? So the Moorish Divine and National Movement of the world, we understand it's of the world, right? Part of the contention in the days of Drew Ali was that Moors tried to make Drew Ali our prophet. They tried to say, well, this guy he's ours, he's for us, and he came to free us black people type of concept, when really he's a universal prophet, and he came to bring all the republics of the world back into knowledge of who they are and what they're supposed to be doing, right? And when we're in that time now, it's just a matter of knowing who you are and what you want, right? You want to be a corporate fiction, or do you just want to be yourself in the republic, right? Have your vote for all of the goings on of your government. So that's the movement, right? Then there's the old Canaanite temple, right? Now the movement is something that Drew Ali is a part of. Drew Ali didn't really start the movement. The movement's something that's been going on from, the independence of countries in the West after colonialism. That's the movement. And everybody knew it, Toussaint, in Haiti, knew what he was doing. He knew also that other people around the world were doing the same thing, right? Cuba, anywhere you go, where the people established a republican form of government, or re-established a republican form of government that was taken, or that was, covered over. So, understanding that, you understand why Drew Ali has this on the cover of the 101s, right? Because in in most countries, an Republican form of government. Everyone has one vote, and you also find that the state of women, or the condition that women's lives are in, and the feminine principle is much better. Right? That's what Republican forms of government allow. Not democracy. Democracy is the thing that it's not. Democracy is not a form of government. Right? It's a politics to cover up what's really supposed to be going on. So that all of that is to say that without that understanding, then your perspective from there is always going to be skewed, even if just a little bit, because you're like, people are going to be doing things, and you're going to be thinking that, you know, halfway across the world, that's not having to do with you. Or we'll talk about stuff that came before Drew Ali, and people won't understand that that was still part of the movement. People want to play like, you know, Drew Ali came and he brought us something that was brand new, and that since it was brand new, like, we have to fight over it, and you know, and no one has a say unless they, you know, someone gave them some sort of authority, right? When it's your movement, right? It's our movement to be yourself, and then if it's to be yourself, then who can really give you the authority to be yourself? Only you, only you, right? So that's the movement. Old Canaanite Temple, you know, that was established in 1913, and so from there, you go to the Moorish Holy Temple of Science later on, 1925, and then you start to have some confusion. So part of the confusion is not understanding that before 1928, right, which is on the back of the 101s, 1928, the date of the incorporation of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, right, which was brought forth out of the Old Canaanite Temple, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science was already operating, right? And it was operating as a civic organization with a juridic person, as it said, right? So what basically Drew Ali did was he used he used his own authority, right? He used that sovereign authority to establish something that, in terms of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, was also on record with all of the so-called authorities and all of the so-called government at the time. Right? It wasn't incorporated; it was on record that, you know, these Moors are doing what they want to, doing what they feel they need to do.
And keep in mind that things have, like, purposely been changed by people in order for the common people not to get this from the lowest level that it's supposed to be received on, right? Because the lowest level of this is the highest level of it, right? Because the different sections were created for certain things, right? So the Old Canaanite Temple had a jurisdiction that its activity was involved in. Then the Moorish Holy Temple of Science is the first branch of the movement that actually had a label as to what it is, as far as the writings. Like, there's no real writings that I've seen, and you know, like we do Taj and Nature and these people, right? Like, there's no real documentation about the Old Canaanite Temple and from the Old Canaanite Temple, right? That's information that's been wiped out. All you know is that there was such a thing, And nobody could deny that there was such a thing called Old Canaanite Temple that was founded in 1913. But then you have some questionnaires, the same thing that has the R authority on the back, saying that, you know, some of them say the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, adopted as the corporate name Moorish Science Temple, and then some say the Moorish Science Temple, adopted as the corporate name Moorish Science Temple. And then those ones would say in the questionnaire, question 9, that the Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in 1913. Like, when that's a fraud. Anybody who says that out their mouth, Moorish Science Temple founded in 1913, fraud. Why? Because in the Moorish leaders' historical message to America, right, and this is Noble Drew Ali laying it out, that we organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925. Right? But he didn't mention Old Canaanite Temple in this. But he's saying that this particular branch called Moorish Holy Temple of Science was organized in 1925. And then in 1926, it was incorporated as a civic organization. Right? And that's 1926. And then the name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to Moorish Science Temple of America in 1928. And then in 1929, Noble Drew Ali was dead. So the Moorish Science Temple of America is the last extension of the Moorish movement, which wasn't even really in activity a year. So how could that be the foundation if that hasn't even been the activity? Right? Because yes, it is said that Noble Drew Ali said that the Moorish Science Temple of America is largely religious. It's a largely religious organization, right? But he also said that the object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity. That's the job of the people who say that I am Moorish Science Temple of America, or I am Old Canaanite Temple, or I am Moorish Holy Temple of Science, or Noble Drew Ali brought this information to me, or whatever. If they talk about anything with relation to the Prophet, the job is uplifting fallen humanity, not nothing else. But why is it that? Because that makes a national organization have a Rotarian complexion. And then Moors will just read this and say, yeah, I read the Prophet. Okay, what's Rotarian mean? Like, what's that? Like, he said this word, Rotarian. So, could anybody say what Rotarian is? Alright. Alright. Oh, okay. Alright. So, Rotary Club. Noun, right? A club of local, professional, and businessmen allied to an international organization called Rotary International and devoted to improving civic service and advancing goodwill among nations. That's Rotary Club. And then Noble Drew Ali said that this national organization has a Rotarian complexion. Right? Yeah. Right? But that's why it's Moorish Science Temple. Because by the time it got to him having to corporatize the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, it was because people weren't ready. That's why he did it. He didn't do it because Secondary, he did it because he knew that the stock market was going to crash, and we needed something corporate in order to maneuver still, right? But it wasn't ultimately that first. It was because of the people. And that's why he said Moorish Science Temple. Because when you look up Moorish, it'll tell you, okay, of relating to the Moors. And then when you look up science, it'll tell you study. So this is really the study temple. And if you study, you're going to have a dictionary because you're going to look up words, and that's just the standard, right? But we'll have like we'll read a Dr. Benbow, front to end. And yeah, we're conscious. But what if we actually looked up all the words that we didn't know? That we just assumed we know what the meaning of this word is. Right? So he set it up so that there's a place for everybody to slot themselves in to this. There's a place for the dirty Moors to slot themselves in, where they're going to be trying to copyright the Circle 7 and foolishness. Right? They have their spot because they're around today and they're exercising as Moor Science Temple. But that's a separate jurisdiction than the foundation. I don't care if they have the Moroccan flag and the United States treaty and Amity banner, and they have a picture of the Prophet, and they have a building and it said Moor Science Temple in the front, right? And if the Prophet was here, he would go to that temple and go visit or whatever. That's not what this is about. This was supposed to be like a united way. Use the collateral that we have as the Moors, the heirs of the North Gate, that Noble Drew Ali is part of the family that got land back because they said that this was their land. He's in the family. And people are going to say, oh yeah, he got his power from the Queen and the Pope gave him power. Like that's how he got his fame and nobility, from the Queen and the Pope. When they don't even know that his family sued United States. Like straight, you guys are a corporation, we're gonna sue you guys because you're squatters and you don't want to live up to the constitutional foundation that's set up in this great republic, right? So when we go into Noble Drew Ali's work and we read what he said, forget about what everybody else says. I'll go with what he said. He said that, okay, well, it was founded in 1925. The Moorish Holy Temple of Science was organized. And in 1926, it became a civic organization. And in 1928, that name was changed to another name, and that was corporate. But he didn't, there's nowhere that it says he dissolved anything. That, well, we're going to start Moorish Science Temple, and nobody can't mention Moorish Holy Temple of Science again because that's dissolved and nobody could use it.
So then the question is, if there are those who are still using the old names, let's just put it that way, then their purpose would still be the same. It's for the uplift and the call,
exactly,
but they just have a different status because of the fact that they're not corporate. Is that right?
Right, exactly, right. It's not going to be corporate. It's going to be a group of Moors came together, right? And based on the Prophet saying that this is your Moorish movement, and all you have to do is proclaim your nationality. Yeah, he said go to the Moorish Science Temple to do that, but what's been the pattern? People go to the Moorish Science Temple to go nationalize, and then they get turned back, or because of the abuse the temple got, people look at the temple negatively, not knowing that that's a separate jurisdiction. The craziness and confusion that people hear about. When you say Moor Science Temple, and then you're hearing about this guy got shot and this happened to this guy and you know somebody got arrested, and well, that's not the Moorish movement. That's just some people who know about their nationality and birthrights and they choose to exercise. And the pressure that they get isn't because they did something wrong. It's because they're doing something right. And they're going to use those people to scare the sheep. Because all you have to do is, and the sheep are running. Sheep jump. Or whatever. Right? But this was set up. So it's like so people are getting blocked when they go to Moor Science Temple of America route. Right? And then now they just abandon it. Because they think that that's it. That Moor Science Temple of America is it. There's nothing else but Moor Science Temple of America. When the name Noble Drew Ali comes up, or Moors in America comes up, or whatever, like, you don't hear about Moorish Holy Temple of Science, right? The average person is not going to go in depth to study to find that out, because like that's like buried information almost. Like, you have to be on the inside to get the information, you know. And things like about Noble Drew Ali having a newspaper, and Noble Drew Ali meeting with Oscar the priest, and the Pan American Conference and these type of things. Like, at that time, like in 1913 to 1929, we're talking about this brother that's he's not just in his paper, but or the nation's paper, right? Because the paper that the Moorish Guide is the paper of the nation. It's not like the temple paper or that's the national paper. That all the Moors all around are supposed to be putting their articles to that. And then push that everywhere. Not everybody have their own paper. Because that's not even logical. Instead of all you 500 guys having your own paper, how about just put to one paper? But then egos are going to get in the way, because some people want to say Moor Science Temple of America from 1913, when that's not what the Prophet said. And that's fraud if you're going to do that. But again, that's a jurisdiction outside of what this really is, because what it's about is uplifting fallen humanity. So if somebody says, I'm Moor Science Temple of America, then okay, well, show me what you've done to uplift fallen humanity. Well, we have a temple, and you can come to our temple and get nationalized and learn about your birthrights, and we have classes on Sunday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's cool. But like, what have you done to uplift fallen humanity? What service have you provided for the nations who are also part of this? That there's some Moors that push people out because they look a certain way. They're not a Moor, right? When everybody is a child of the dark-skinned people. And the last name that those people fell as is Moors. And they had that name for until Kemet fell. When Kemet fell, they adopted Moors. And they adopted Moor, M-R, in honor of their ancestors. And that's why MR means pyramid. Because they took the name in honor of their ancestors, to the point where the Great Seal is on the dollar bill. More. Because this is, the foundation didn't start with Noble Drew Ali, like Chairman was saying. He sparked the being able to bring these people back into it now. But it's been going on before him. He never brought Moors, right? That's why people, you know, like some people get mad with certain people when they tell people, yo, like, get off Noble Drew Ali's Bozak. Like, it's not only about him. There was Moors before him, obviously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's what people don't, the general population doesn't understand. Anybody we talk to, Moors, like conscious or whatever, anybody, and you talk about Moors, they still talk about 7-Eleven. That's what they talk about.
That's what they know.
And so they, when I guess, so they look at it from that perspective and they figure, okay, well, Noble Drew Ali came along in the 20th century, 19th century,
Yeah.
and so between the fall in 1492 and his arrival on the planet, there were no Moors, and he kind of created. I don't know. I have no idea really, but it's very much. Just the other day, I was talking to somebody at work, and you know, where are you from? Where are your parents from? Where you got? We're from right here. You know, how far back do you want me to go? And you know, and you mentioned the word Moor. Oh, I thought they were around in 7-Eleven. Yeah, well, we just appeared in 7-Eleven and we disappeared. Like, think about it. You know what I mean? It's not that. Just connect the dots. You know, it's not that. That's not that hard. They don't think about any other people on this planet. You wouldn't say, well, the Chinese people were only around during the Ming Dynasty. You know what I mean? They were always there, and they're still here now.
Exactly.
And every other nation of people. But the minute you try to talk to and I don't get angry, you know. I'll explain it to them because it's something that we didn't know anything about for a long time, myself included. So when you meet people like that, you just lay it out for them, and it's very logical. It's not something that's way out there, you know. This is where we're from.
Because it's not even like that. It's unfortunate that, you know, there's, you know, quote unquote 30 Moors that try to bury just the truth about, you know, nationality and birthrights. That it's the people's own, and yo, we have to just give it to them. You know, like we just stop people on street. Hey, you know what your nationality and birthrights? No, we need to come to the temple tomorrow. We have a meeting. No, well, I have to. No, like you don't have anything to do but go to the temple tomorrow. Like, did you see the news? Did you see the paper? Well, yeah, I saw the picture with the guy with the fez, but, you know, I just thought, you know, what's that Moorish thing have to do with me or whatever? Well, no, it has to do with you. Right? Like, it's the people's stuff. It's not our stuff. Right? You know, and that's the problem, that they don't want it. And it's theirs. You know? But they've been conditioned. They've been programmed, you know, to not go out on a limb. Right? Because once the man could go out on a limb and realize that, oh, hold on a second, I can go out this room and I can just grab that one, and I don't have to worry about this limb breaking.
That's true.
Right?
Well,
it's all conditioning. Right? It's all conditioning.
168.
Right? So
concerning the incident people were following that happened a few weeks ago, the brother in the feds on the highway.
Oral Statements and Prophecies, number 168. Brother G. Cook Bay, GS of Temple 1, said that the Holy Prophet Drew Ali said, one day you are going to look out to the streets, and the streets are going to be filled with men with turbans and fezzes, and the highways are going to be blocked.
Didn't that just happen a couple weeks ago? Maybe it wasn't so that they had to block off their floor.
They had to block the highway off. that part of the prophecy came true.
like what did Tom
Right.
did the other day.
Right. You know? So Moorish Science Temple of America is United Way, food bank, whatever, right? And that's what it is. And that's the activity that Moors have to be doing. This is more for Moors who are out there that are sincere, but they're trapped by their Grand Chief. Because their Grand Chief's gonna say, no, you can't do that until, you know, I have to talk to the council, and then it takes 5 years to talk to the council or whoever. And nothing doesn't get done. Right? You know, deliberate. Just because they don't want the people to know that it's theirs and have their own temple. You know, every member of a Moorish Science Temple should have their own temple. Right? Let's manifest that. Every, you know, member of the Moorish Science Temple is a mufti. Every member of the Moorish Science Temple is a third heaven adept with a certificate. And then those who can't reach that level of saying, okay, well, yeah, you know, I want to be adept or whatever, you know, they want to chill and just come sometimes and sometimes don't come, and you know what I mean, like be sideways with it opposed to doing their job. Then take off your turban and fez and go back to the corporate state. Because if we have what Noble Jolly brought and we don't activate it, it's useless. It's just words on a page sitting there.
You don't get rich counting your neighbor's money.
For real. Right? So this is the general laws as said by the Prophet, Tuesday, October 17th, 1928. Every temple and the head is to function by words, deeds, and actions imitating the Prophet, especially when teaching a group of Moors, any group of Moors. These are the general laws. The supreme laws will be handed to you later. The heads of all temples are to submit a monthly report of all finance. The heads of all temples are to refrain from all wrathful words, profanity in the mildest form, from all members of his temple to her temple. They must live the life of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and refrain from all alcoholic liquors or any other harmful possibility that will terminate to destroy peace or any other of the divine principles. They are not to contribute to anything that will cause the public to disagree with him or her. And for one to lead a group of Moors, you must keep your house clean, clean with good deeds, kind words. Your wives' brothers must hear good works, kind words, and must know of your good deeds. If there are children, you must see to their support. Follow this divine principle, for if you don't restrict to this divine principle, then you are not a true Moor. And the heads are not to charge for membership, or to overcharge for cards, buttons, or anything issued by the Prophet. Those who contribute to either of the preceding are not Moors but robbers. Membership, sisters and brothers, is free, not only here but all over the world. The button is 25 cents, the card is 25 cents, and 1 month's dues are paid. Every member pays 50 cents a month for dues. This money goes to the support of the temple. This, if not paid, does not entitle you to the protection that is provided for you, and especially if you are not working or in the position to work. If you neglect to fulfill this small duty assigned you, you can rightfully expect money or other help when you are sick or otherwise disabled. And to be a real Moorish leader, you must study the Quran and the divine constitution that is handed down onto you by I, the Prophet. The head of any temple can maintain an emergency fund which cannot exceed the amount of 25 cents to 50 cents a week per member. All public collections and dues also go to support the temple and its domestic work. The head of every temple must by law obey the word of the prophet, and if any head leader or head of any temple fails to obey these laws, embezzlement is the charge and is subject to enforcement of the law by grand body, and the penalty may be a fine or removal from office, or placed under a very heavy restriction of the law. So there's heads of temples who somebody do something and they don't say, we're gonna take your title. They say that we're gonna take your nationality. Right? Yeah. That's the level that they use as far as like the tactics, the underlying tactics that heads, right, that came in from the beginning, and then they have people today who learn from the people who were directly responsible for Drew Ali's death and hiding information. And then those people are gonna, you know, be on a perspective of, well, I'm from Temple. What temple are you from? Well, who's your grand chief? Well, what's the succession of your temple? Well, what seals do you have on your charter? Well, what, like, what are you talking about? How about I'm not showing you anything, and you show me your uplifting humanity work? How about you show me your membership list and the dues that they've been paying and how long that you've been running your temple for? And how about show me some of the civic activity that you've done, right? Which the civic activity is going to make the members better citizens because they're going to be doing for others without expecting anything in return, just because that's your job. Uplift fallen humanity. You know, put your hand in the hole and pull somebody up. Just look at them in the hole. You know, now there's a difference if you put your hand and they don't want to take your hand. That's different, because there are people like that who would just chill in the hole and they're content in the hole, right? Complaining about every and anything, but outside the hole is everything that they ever wanted and everything that they ever need, but they never come out the hole because of agents, infiltrators that are heads, not low level. Because remember, 1913 to 1925, everybody around Drew Ali was a disciple. We rather look at them and just say, you know, like how, you know, we look at it. Just some brothers and sisters coming together, you know about our nationality and birthrights, and let's organize and do something like that. That's not what that was back then. Like, those people around him, like, they were given the lessons. They were given everything. Right? That just like our foundation. Grand Sheikh Daweed Ali El, Grand Governor Aki Bey, Grand Chairman Mentu Hotep Bey, Chicago Moors, Grand Sheikh Kenny Umar Bey. Moors that when we went to the temple, they just gave everything. Like, here's everything that you need to know about the Prophet and having a temple and whatever you're back. Go reclaim Canaanland. Because we need that. That's a big part of North America. That you're the only Moors that's up there. So here's everything. Right? Everything, like stuff that it's been 4 years, stuff that didn't even come out yet. Because that's how much stuff there is. And how backed up it is, and why everybody has to come in and see it as theirs So it's not a fight to, you know, read this big book about the Moors that some Moor wrote that you don't know, but, you know, might as well just read this book. What else am I going to read right now? You know, because like there's so much information out there with regard to the Prophet and what he brought and the jurisdiction of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, that it's like it goes into every field of study, right? Which, like if we look at it conceded, like logically it should, because that's the ancient Egyptian mystery system information. It's the same thing. It's just called Moorish now. But the science is no different. It's still that same science that they had in ancient Kemet. Like, exactly. It's just called something different, relating to the people that have it now. That George G. M. James said that the Moors are the custodians of the ancient Egyptian culture when Egypt fell. Because if the Moors are custodians and there's still Moors around today, then who took that away from the Moors? And how'd they get it? Yeah. And the easiest way for them to get it is just to get Moors out of the people's mind. Peace, family. Right? Because they know that they can't defeat the Moors. Especially if Moors are especially if when with the Prophet in the front and you start talking about Moors, it makes it a lot easier, because like people knew about him, right? They might not have known about him by, you know, by name, but they seen a picture or something of this man the Fez. Exactly, but you know, I knew it was something about him telling them they're not black and Negro and something like that. Like people know about him, right? And being that they know about him and we don't know about him, like why not put him up front instead of trying to take the position, which comes back to the agents that always want to be the guy. I'm the guy that did. I'm the guy that. I'm the one that. If it wasn't for me doing whatever, nothing. Right? When Prophet did everything already. Like all we had to do is just slot ourselves into a part. You can slot yourself into the Moorish Science Temple of America Religious Corporation Tax Jurisdiction, which is one jurisdiction. You can slot yourself into the Moorish Science Temple of America Religious Corporation that's not tax. That's a jurisdiction. You can slot yourself into the Moorish Science Temple of America Corporate Religious Organization. You can slot yourself into the Moorish Corporate. Once you deal with the corporate, know that that's a deep rabbit hole. Once you go Moorish Science Temple of America and don't connect Moorish Holy Temple of Science or Canaanland Temple Moorish Divine and National Movement to it, you're playing in the shark pool. Because that's what that jurisdiction was created by the Prophet for. To trap those leechers there. Right? You know where he talks about it? Because Drew Ali said everything I say is spirit, so Moors had better heed. Everything I say is spirit. No. Right? Okay. Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the Prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain or unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try and try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads like the sword old Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunnings find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Drew Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction, and having traveled over the road years before, the Prophet knows where every member is along the road. Right? So, all that he's talking about right there is Moorish Science Temple of America, the original, the Moorish Science Temple of America that was Rotarian in its nature, not the corporate Moorish Science Temple of America. Right? He's talking about the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the world, Old Canaanite Temple, and the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Right? And then this is where he's talking about the corporate and everything under the corporate Moorish Science Temple of America now. Right? A few feet below is another road where schemers walk, where traitors grin and culprits bask in the sun. They think that they are on the same road with the true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time, and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high, catch scent, devour and cry out, Kavit Emtor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exists, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks wait. Right? So Noble Drew Ali knew that there were sellout traders and everything in the temple when he was alive. Like he knew. And he set up the movement perfect. So everybody has a part. Right? It's like for example, you have Moors go and copyright the Circle 7. Right? If it's copywritten, how come we can still read it and quote from it or whatever? Obviously, like it's not copywritten. Even though they went and they actually have something saying that, yeah, we copyrighted. Right? There's a block on it. Huh? They're just trying to own the stuff so the people can't get it. You know? Like there's even like documents that were filed in the Library of Congress by Moors who were under the tutelage of Noble Drew Ali, that they founded certain organizations, right? Moorish institutions, and the people who came after the founders moved the stuff in the Library of Congress, like moved it somewhere else. Like it had a number that you can go and you can just call and just say, yo, I want this number. And then now you call and that number is not what what that is. The number is a different thing. And yeah, and the people in there don't have the power to change the number because it's not their jurisdiction, right? That's tampering with people's stuff that they can't do because they take an oath to the Constitution to work in the Library of Congress, right? So they know what the law is, and you know they might not know.
So how do they get the power to change the number in the first place?
By just like the Moors with Noble Drew Ali assume that they can copyright, right? Assume that they can change the number, and that's gonna change, you know, it being able to be found, right? When you know there's many ways to skin a cat, right? Which is what they never thought about, like the sellouts. They thought they had this rock stopping battle, like yeah, you know what I mean? We raided the fund, you know what I mean? We made Moorish Science Temple of America's, Temple of Islam's. In a year, we're gonna change those to Nation of Islam's, and then, yo, you just sit back, right? Right? You just sit back and let our bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Right? You know? But they thought that, yo, nobody's gonna catch what's going on. You know? But luckily for, you know, the Prophet being the mastermind that he was, you know what I mean? You know, he set up the movement that is really based on the first principle, love. It's based on sincerity. You know, it's not based on how much knowledge you have. You can have all the knowledge and you might just want to try to own stuff, take over, start copyrighting stuff. That's not even yours to copyright. You know, just because you have a title. Right? You know, like people who wanna like debate me, right? Other Moors, like with fezzes on and stuff like that. Right? Want to debate me and want me to give up my title because I'm not qualified, right? But they're not gonna go to the people who gave me the title and say that, even though they know who those people are, right? Because like, what are you talking about? You're supposed to be out there doing something, uplifting fallen humanity, right? Like that's the name of the game. But you want to debate about things that are supposed to be common knowledge because you have a feza, right? If anybody's telling me about, yeah, well, Noble Drew Ali and he's the prophet and, you know, and he brought this and he brought that and, you know, like he's the founder, but they're not talking about her divine statute and juridic person and divine being the real religion, you know, of aligning your chakras, and that's why there's a big 7 on the front. If they're just looking at it from, this is some group that they're going to come and join, like you disqualified yourself. Because the movement's just sitting there waiting for the Moors to take it and do with it what you're supposed to do with it. But they don't want to do that because they think they're under the impression that what the sellouts did affects the movement, when it doesn't. That's a separate jurisdiction that has absolutely nothing to do with the organic Moorish movement. It's not relative, because if somebody says we're the Vatican and they build this big thing or whatever, just like Vatican, right? Like, who are people gonna go with? The one that's been there forever, or are you gonna go with these new guys that are just coming and saying, yeah, that they're the founders of Rome?
Especially if they say we're the Vatican, and we want to copyright the Bible.
yeah, right. You know what I mean? You know, so it's clear that there's been a sellout, right? But it's also clear that nobody wants to really talk about it because, you know, then you're going to be talking about some people that you might be studying under for 30, 40 years. You know, that you become the student of the master teacher, but he didn't tell you that there was a master teacher before him that you'd learn from. And that's across the board. Because nobody until you come into this, nobody takes Noble Jolly serious. It's just, Mars, Nobody takes time to dissect and digest what he really did to see its benefit, right? They blow it off because of the so-called tarnish of the temple, which isn't a tarnish because whatever that is in its own jurisdiction. That's why we can say that we're Moorish Science Temple of America, because we're not corporate, right? Our perspective of this is service to mankind, because that's what it needs right now. You know what I mean? This is the missing key. This is the missing key. Like, we studied everything: Buddhism, Taoism, sex magic, metaphysics. Like, we studied everything. Chematology. Like, we just go through here and we could just go through all the books and stuff that they have in here about everything. You know, but then a few of them have a little mention of the prophet. You know. Like, he should be the front of every book. A little write-up, 10 pages about, you know, Noble Raleigh, and then he brought, you know, and this is him. And then if you want to get any information about this, you can go to, and then there's the next 10 pages of every single Moorish Science Temple of America that anybody could go to anywhere they live in the world. Because there were nationality cards written in Spanish. You know, it is said that, there were Chinese and Turks and Arabs members of the Moorish Science Temple. And more than likely, they're not from America. So why is he nationalizing them? For them to take it back to where they come from and start a Moorish Science Temple over there in Chinese. Because it's a movement to save the nations. You know, this is the Rotary Club, right? Not the international organization called Rotary International. Now, the international organization called Rotary International got its idea from the Moorish movement, because that's the foundation of using Islam as a tool to uplift fallen humanity, not using it as a religion, using it to show that you can earn your rewards by changing your character. You can earn your rewards by having a breakfast club. You know? And how's the breakfast club getting paid for? By your dues. That's why you pay dues. Because the dues, like Prophet said, is for the running of the temple. Not for Grand Chief to get a check every month, or for Chairman to get a check every month, and Mufti to get a check every month, right? The finance that comes in is supposed to go right back to the temple. That way nobody can leech off of it. And that's Noble Drew Ali's words. Right? That the finance has to go back in. Right? The writing that says, you know, the Grand Sheik's supposed to go, put the charter on the wall, and wait a half hour. If nobody comes, take down the charter, go home. Right?
But it's true though, and you know, just for the record, there's no excuse anymore, really, because everybody's up to the internet. You can go to any corner of the globe, and everybody's online. So it's one thing to say I didn't know any better, so I went and I paid my membership to become a Moor, you know. But there's so much information at your fingertips. You just can't. I think that it's everyone's responsibility to say that whatever they're going to stand by, that you know what you're standing for. You know, so if you're going to say, well, I'm going to go and give my money to these people so I can buy my nationality, when one of the first things that the Prophet said was that nobody can sell it to you and nobody can take it away from you. And if you don't get that simple point from the get-go, you might as well throw in the towel. Because you already started out wrong, right? And there's no excuse for it, because even if you thought that was correct, all you have to do is do a little bit of research and you'll find out that it's not. Because there's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot of different things. And in some of it, you have to use your common sense. That's what you got to bring for.
Right. Like the questionnaire, right? You know, everybody's gonna, yeah, you know, this is our authority. Or our authority at the back of the 101 questionnaire. And there's more, and this is the authority that we have because we're Moors, etc. And then at the end, it says, see Hers Revised Statute, chapter 32-36. Like it just says, just see that. Go look that up. See what that is. And that becomes a class in itself. Right? Because that's where the foundation of the movement is. What its activity is. That's the supreme laws that would be handed down to you later. Because he did everything. But because of the sellouts and the agents, at that time, he had to put things in code. That's why he said, everything I say is spirit. He's really saying everything I say is coded. So it's going to take you guys 50 years to figure out what I brought you, and 50 years would have gone and you didn't even know that I was here. But the point is, it's going to take you 50 years to figure out the code of what the movement is and how it's supposed to operate. Because I can't just tell you now, because, you know, like, I can't even trust the man right next to me. I can't even trust him. I can't even, you know, have a meal. Because like, people are poisoning my food. And I know that they're poisoning my food. It's not like, you know, I don't know. I know that they got poison in my food right now. Am I going to eat this? Should I pretend to eat it? Like, what do you do? Any volunteers? Any volunteers? You know? Yeah, you think? That's this. No, it's not.
So, this is an email that was sent out by a brother, Brother M. Moore Bay. Alright. When it comes to understanding how the MSTA is a nation state, one needs to study and research the Smith-Hurd, Illinois annotated statutes. Chapter 32, Section 164, and the Illinois Religious Corporation Act, 805 Illinois Compiled Statutes 110. The MSTA is a part and parcel of the government of the state of Illinois. Right? So that means jurisdiction-wise, it's still within the jurisdiction of the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois within the jurisdiction of the United States of America. Right? So U.S. Every state we function in. Right? So the MSTA is a lawfully founded organization. The MSTA is a divine, religious, and national political movement. So that means we teach the divine laws and laws of the land. So we are long past those who cannot speak on both planes of law. The MSTA is chartered to carry out the Prophet's teachings as stated in our affidavit titled Our Authority, which is on the back of the Moorish Questionnaire 101s. Right.
And our authority, I, Noble Drew Ali, Morris Holy Temple of Science, held at Chicago in the county of Cook and state of Illinois on the 20th day of July 1928 for the purpose of the following persons were appointed chiefs according to the rules usages of such Morris Holy Temple of Science. Do solemnly swear that at a meeting of the members of the Noble Drew Ali, Mealy Eel, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Foreman Bay, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to propagate the faith and extend the learning and truth of the great Prophet of Ali in America, to appoint and consecrate missionaries of the Prophet and to establish faith of Muhammad in America. And the said Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name the following Moorish Science Temple of America. And at said meeting, this affiant acted as presiding officer, subscribed, sworn before me, 20th day of July 1928, Robert Condell, made the Republic.
So there it clearly states that a meeting was held with, if you look it up, it's members, of the temple at the time, like the chairman, secretary at the time. And the meeting itself was the establishment, right, or was the act which changed the name of Moorish Holy Temple of Science to Moorish Science Temple of America. So it adopted Moorish Science Temple of America, right? So there's an understanding that there was a thing called the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, right, which is already doing business, and it adopted Moorish Science Temple, right, in order to transact and to, like the Grand Sheikh said, get those people, right, who were already scheming, right, to get them into that jurisdiction, because
that's the jurisdiction.
That's the one
Like
that they're gonna
the
fall
corporate jurisdiction is where the fraud goes on. Like when we say the corporate jurisdiction, like taxes and licenses and the same fraud that we're saying is the fraud, which and then they have a natural person and a corporate person and all that. That's the fraud jurisdiction, right? So why would he create that for us, right? Knowing that we have, there's different degrees, there's different angles that the movement could be looked at, and then some angles you're blindsided. But if you want to keep looking from that angle, then you know what I mean? Like the blind side is gonna get you eventually. You know what I mean? Right? Like them them murdering the Prophet and setting it up so that even the death certificate is gonna say not how he died. Right? Like that's inside job. That's obviously inside job. The death certificate get changed. You know what I mean? That's inside job. So if man's are gonna go that deep to hide, like they're gonna go deep to hide how he died, Which other leader like they did that to? You know, and it's a well-known fact that his death certificate got changed amongst the Moors. Like, that's not something that Moors dispute. Right? Why? Because he was also the Egyptian adept. And he had a manufacturing business and was selling herbs and all that type of stuff. Right? Huh? Adept. Like a high, yeah, like a high in the studies. You know what I mean? Advanced. Right? But he was doing, he had a manufacturing company where he was manufacturing like mineral oil and you know, body salts, you know, herbs to make tonics and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like so for him to die of tuberculosis, you know, or whatever else they would say that he died from, just not to say that, yeah, nah, some people beat him up or whatever, right? Like, they just beat him to death, basically, you know. Huh? Well, nothing he did was for himself. Everything he did was for the nation, right? Like, he never did anything for him, right? He basically, you know, did everything for us, like everything for us.
According to the United States jurisdiction, according to them, he's the heir to the court case that was 60-something thousand acres of land, or 3,000 acres of land in Louisiana, plus more. And he didn't sit there and say, okay, I'm going to hand this down to my daughter or son, or I'm going to, it's like he put not just that, but the whole continent into a trust, right? A lawful trust, to say that Moors who want to be, you know, citizens of these lands, you're entitled.
All you have to do is proclaim your nationality.
So it's like,
which is free.
If you understand the logic would dictate then that you should, like Rashi said, you should put the prophet on the cover of every book, right? And like, stop complaining about like them. Like, it was 1842. They already gave Drew Ali's ancestors, like, they're not like, yeah, it's your land. Okay, yeah, here, take it.
Prior to him.
Then he comes, right, and then puts the whole thing in trust. So logic would dictate that there's no like, nobody can give you an argument if you know who you are. Like, there is no argument. Like, there's no, right? Fighting. That's why it's, you know, Moorish divine and national movement, right? And that's why it was the Canaanite temple, right? We have brothers like J.A. Rogers, right? People are gonna read his books and think, wow, this guy was advanced back in those days. Yeah, he was a member of the old Canaanite temple, right? And see Oscar the Priest, first Asiatic congressman. Like, wow, that was 20s. He was a congressman, right? And he was a member of the temple, right? Because it's just logic.
Right. And we have to go with logic, because they're not going to come out and say that they were members of the old Canaanite temple. You know what I mean? Like, because if they say that, that's giving it a chance. You know what I mean? That's having another person say, "Oh, for real? Oscar the Priest was there?" Damn, I voted for that guy. I might as well go join the thing that he's involved in. You know what I mean? But if they keep it hush hush, you know, you'll have people who are members of, you know, the NAACP that would have voted for Oscar the Priest. You know, just because he's a black guy and whatever. You know, But really and truly, like, he was, you know, because the priest, that's really Day. Right? And then Day is one of the Moorish names. You know? Just like Matthew da Costa, you know, the Portuguese Moor that came here. Okay, well, yeah, da Costa is not D-A. Da Costa is D-E-Y, Day, the Moorish name. Matthew da Costa, the Moor. And they say the Moor too. It's not like they hide that he's a Portuguese Moor. You know what I mean? And then he's a brother, and they say he's Portuguese. You know what I mean? Like putting it all out there. You know, but people are gonna still go turn around and then say, "Oh yeah, the first black guy that found Canada is Matthew da Costa." But like his history book or whatever says he's a Moor, but they'll say black guy, right? Just to do the denationalization, right?
Like Moors got kicked out of Spain, like within a generation before he was born. Pretty much, probably his parents got kicked out of Spain, or his ancestors got, and they went to Portugal, and they were Moors, because everybody knows it was Moors in Spain from 1711 to 1492.
Exactly.
So then they were Moors, and then all of a sudden, when he comes to Canada, he's a black guy.
He lost his nationality on the ocean. He lost in translation.
Right. And then that's the like fraud legal aspect of it. Like, yeah, you know, technically, like, yeah, you know, we have to denationalize these people, but you can't defeat them.
And the denationalization is making you agree that you're a slave. Once you agree that you're a slave, then bam, we got you. They say, what's a slave? Well, a slave is somebody who has a chain on them and you know, they have to pick cotton. Oh no, a slave is a black person. A slave is a Negro, a slave is a Trinidadian, a Jamaican, a Tobagonian, a St. Vincent, a St. Lucian, all those are slaves. And they admit that they're slaves. It's not even like, yeah, we came over here on the slave. Okay, so then you're a slave then. You can't say that you're not a slave because it's 2012 and they don't have chains on you. But you're going to say, I want reparations because you guys brought me over here on a slave ship. But you're not a slave though. Right? No. Because when like, the history of the Moors is so vast that all they could do is graft themselves onto it and then claim it, which is what they did. They grafted themselves onto it and then they claimed it. Right? They can't use it in its full capacity because, you know, they just can't, because it's not really theirs, you know. But there's aspects of it that, you know, they can live comfortable because you set it up like that, so everybody could be in harmony. You don't have to worry about who has more stuff. Everybody has their own share that's good enough for you and your posterity and everything. You have to argue and fight and whatever, you know. But you know, if the Prophet brought about world peace in 1929, you know, crazy that would be. This man from North Carolina, like, put the world at peace because he founded this organization, which was the purpose of it, to do everything that every organization after 1930 said that they're supposed to do for people, no matter what ethnicity or nationality. All of it comes from what Prophet did. And yeah, it's hard pill to swallow for some people, But, well, sorry, you know, the guy who you think is the founder of something, he ain't found nothing. He's a copycat that doesn't want to admit that he's a copycat. You know, because then what's all the followers going to do? You know what I mean? Like, it's common knowledge, you know, and then you know, then you have the agents who make up stuff and say that, well, you know, this person is the reincarnated version of the person that died, so let's follow him. And then everybody, you know, everybody follow him. It's because, you know, that's how they set it up. You know, like deliberate, like set up like that. And while they're doing that, you know, they have because like the people who were directly under Noble Drew Ali, all of them became heads of their own whatever, right? And then they had their own people, their own, you know, it's just like coming here and then there's going to be some people that will side with Adiza, and then there's some people side with Tesba, and then some people side with Grand Sheik. It's the exact same thing, right? You know what I mean? And that became a separate thing because now a man's like, well, yo, I got 5 people. He has 2 people. Like, that means that, you know, I'm superior. So, you know what? I'm going to go do my own thing. You know? And yeah, like he might have been, you know, that might have been a real good idea to go, yeah, do your own thing. But really and truly, yo, you have to keep the foundation. You know what I mean? And the foundation was real simple, right? The Grand Sheik, chairman, assistant Grand Sheik, you know, empowered to make law, enforce law, you know, with the assistance of the Grand Body or the body of Moors for this particular. People would let us know what we're supposed to do, you know, and as soon as you have the head person like, well, yeah, we should, everybody's like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea, we should do that. Then you're done for, because the people's the one that's supposed to be setting the pace of how it's supposed to go, you know. In our case, there was nothing up here, right? This is what me and Chairman were building on about when Noble Drew Ali said that new Moors are going to come. I think we talked about it in one class too. That new Moors are going to come is a very bold statement, right? Because if there's Moors from, like, okay, we know that between 1913 and 1929, Noble Drew Ali came to Toronto, right? Like he came here, chilled for a little bit, right? So he was here. After that, there was nothing with regard to Moors in Toronto, right? Until we started. And that's like 2007, right? So like that whole time, there was no talk as far as Moors up here, right? But south of Canada, there was activity of Moors all over. So those people aren't new. They've been here from the foundation, right? Noble Drew Ali didn't even get to set up anything up here. All you got to do was come meet with somebody. But if to set up something, if that would have happened, then yeah, from that time that he set up something here to now, we would at least had something going on up here with regard to that. You know what I mean? So this is really the new, right? The new is the places where the temple's never been before. That's the new, where the new Moors are going to come out of. Because majority of the people who came into this information up here, they didn't even care about no nationality card or anything like that, or paperwork or anything like that. And they were standing up on rights harder than people who had nationality cards for 50, 60 years and paperwork. You know, like not having anything and standing up on birthright just because of, well, you know, I'm not black because I'm brown. So, like, okay, like let's do this, yo. I could get with that. You know what I mean? I'm indigenous. Tell me I'm not indigenous. First indigenous are dark-skinned people. I'm backing people down, whoever, like police, judges, whatever, without anything, like without really digesting what Noble drew, just having this concept that, hold on a second, no, if Moore is an indigenous person, then I'm not black, so then that means I'm a Moor. And then there's black Moors in Europe, and then black and Moor, and then they took Moor off and called me black. Okay, I can get with this. Like, I get it. Like, I get what happened. Right? And bad up the place. Had the place weak. Right? Without anything. You know what I mean? You know, like CAS, like, had place weak. Just because. You know? From the jump, from the start, we were given this in the proper perspective. From the heads. Not from just some people who were just on the side doing nothing. But the people who were actually heads of temples, like, pulled us on a one-away and said, okay, this is what it looks like. This is what it is. This is you know, right? Here's everything that you need to do that. You know? And putting it out there that, yeah, there's sellouts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's guys who are like, you know, like who are in sodomy and stuff like that say they're more Science Temple. Right? Have certain things that they really shouldn't have, like if they say that they're that. You know what I mean? Engaging in certain things. You know? Right? Because that's how deep that's how deep it goes. You know, and people doing messed up stuff under the name of Moors has nothing to do with true Moors. And the Moors that are faithful to the Prophet right? Like nothing to do with it. Totally different jurisdiction. And that would make it easier for people to know that, okay, well, that's not the only outlet, right? Like the problem is that there's no Moorish holy temples of science, right? Counteracting that move that the sellouts are doing with the Moorish Science Temple, because it's deadly. Like it's deadly. The split between, you know, like nobody already said, all Moors are active, not passive. Okay, so if you're not active, that means you're passive. And if you're passive, then you're not active and you're not doing what Noble Drew Ali said to do. Because he said all Moors are active. Right? And then that's why he called this a movement. And then everybody copied him and called their thing a movement, but they're stagnant. When movement means activity. But they're not on that. They want to chill and have Moorish church. And pray and sing hymns and, you know, go back to the corporate state when they leave there. And then when they come there, they're Moors. Only when they're at the temple, they're Moors. Because, you know, Prophet said you have to carry your fez to the temple. So, you know, if I'm not wearing my fez, like, I guess Moor. Right? But how people get like that? They're taught like that. By agents who know what the truth is, and they're gonna exercise, just like Pope's gonna go pray to Virgin Mary that's really a set and Heru. But he's not gonna go tell the people, hey, you know, in the back room, I don't really pray to the one that you guys I actually pray to like the dark skinned one. You know? Like what's everybody gonna do? You know? Even though there's pictures with him praying to them, but they have a white picture in their house.
Yeah, right. You show pictures of him with the prayer.
Yeah, yo. They got pictures of him like, you know, seeing it and bowing and, you know what I mean, doing his like, you know, whatever to it. Yeah. You know. But he also does it to the European one. Yeah. But then, you know, you have to look at okay, so what you trying to say? You know what I mean? Like, what are you really saying? You know, without saying anything. You know? But they'll just say, oh, you know, he did it to the European one, so I guess that one's did it too. You know? Try to confuse the people. Right? Which is the point. Because once you have people confused, if they don't know day from night, then you have them tired all the time. You know what I mean? Don't know, like, you know what? It can't work right now. I'm so tired. You know, it's 6 a.m. Like, why do I feel like this? You know, have everything backwards. Right? You know, and it's deliberate and it's by design to be like that.
Well, you know what? When I think about it, that's a really well designed plan, man.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Well, look how
when I
well it
realized
works.
everything, I'm like, damn, these guys went that deep.
That's
that
what
far.
Yes.
I can race and do all these things.
Yeah.
That's a genius plan, though. Really.
Yeah.
You gotta respect the plan too.
Right.
But at the same time,
for one, and you know what I'm saying, you don't respect it, but it's so deep.
But it's deep. Yeah, you have to.
That any of that was real. You know, I couldn't believe it when I started seeing all this thing. You know?
Yeah.
So you gotta respect that, man.
but like at the same time, Drew Ali went farther. That's like prophet.
Yeah.
And he went to an extent where it's like they can't reverse or undo what he did. Right? So she says it's a matter of like sliding yourself in. If you know what's up, like you know who you are, you know yourself, then like they can't infiltrate you. They can't infiltrate you unless you let them.
And what they really want to infiltrate is your psyche. Right? Infiltrate your thinking. Right? Like by you know, wanting to debate me. So I can make them famous. Right? Like, nah, like you make yourself famous. I will make you famous. Because I know I'm going to kill him in a debate. I know. Like, it's not like, it has nothing to do with books and how much stacks of books I have. You know what I mean? Like, prophet's in my corner.
Why would somebody want to come and challenge you like that in the first place? Is this just about grandstanding?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right?
Why are you wasting
Pretty
that
much.
energy, first of all, instead of uplifting, following the man?
Exactly. There's a job that has to get done.
It's always been like that.
That too.
When you look in the Bible, all the big prophets,
too.
the same story was going on with them all the time.
That too.
You know, there's a time and a place for debate if it's warranted, but why? You know, we don't even have to play that way. You know what I mean? If they want to do stuff like that, let them find people to do that with.
Right.
But
Exactly.
over here, we don't do it like that. We got more important things to do.
Way more important things to do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, especially with you know, seeing that the activity that we're doing is actually uplifting fallen humanity for real. Like it's not even like a joke thing. You know what I mean? Like it's really doing that, right? Like what? There's people who aren't even here, and they're like, yo, go up in our direction because where we're at, that there's some crazy Moors. Like, we don't want to go there. What do you mean you don't want to go there? Like, it's temple, you know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to go to the temple. Go in there, don't worry about what they're doing in there. Nah, not going in there. There's some crazy Moors up in those temples. Right? Trying to own people and, you know, whatever. Right? You know? Also, too, to touch on, too, with Jeff Fort and the El Ruckins and all that. Right? Like, they're saying directly that, yo, they're the El Ruckins of the Moor Science Temple. Even the gangsters know. El Ruckins is basically gangbangers.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Right? Yeah, you know, like street gangs.
Yeah.
But they were on the science. Yeah. You know, they were on the science. Right? And people were saying that, oh, well, you know, are they affiliated with the are they not affiliated with the thing? When the reality is, they were affiliated because majority of this information getting out is from people who were in prison that talked to somebody that put them onto some, like the same thing like in Malcolm X with how, oh yeah, you know in Nation Islam, yeah, you need to get down with this because, you know, yeah, we just look in the dictionary and yo, exact same thing going on, but it's Moors doing that, right? And I could say, yeah, because there's Moors in federal penitentiaries right now doing, like, you know, like years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, sending me literature. Like, just send me stuff, you know, pictures, you know what I mean? It's like how do you have this? Right? Like, how do you have this? How come I'm not seeing this anywhere else? Like, how do you have this edition of this newspaper in the jail? You know, right? You know, and I think really that was almost like a safe haven for a lot of the last bits of literature. You know, because the Moors who are in there, like the beef, yeah, the split beef was real. Like, people got murdered and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There were shootings and stuff like that, right? So it wasn't some little beef. This split in the Moorish movement, right? Where people are getting killed and people going to prison and going to jail and courts and, you know, there's a book, I can't remember the name of the author, but there's a book called Sacred Drift, and the author's name is, I think, Peter Lamberton or something like that. But the Sacred Drift is like a good book about the temple and the prophet, and, you know, it's kind of like a like reading some Peter Moon talking about the temple, right? And just, you know, talking about it in the right perspective. You know what I mean? I'm getting the name right now. Yeah. Peter Lamborn Wilson. Peter, Lamborn, Lamborn Wilson. Sacred Drift. Essays on the Margins of Islam is the name of the Wilson. Peter Lamborn Wilson. Right. So, like, even on that level, like, you look at you know, the amount of Europeans out there, you know, that openly talk about the prophet. And talk about, yeah, like, you know, he was teaching black people that they're not black people. You know, like, that's just so brilliant. Like, you know, like, that's, you know, where this guy come from with this idea, you know, right? People who don't really in a sense, look at it completely. You know, they just hear about it, or you know, it's an interesting concept. You know what I mean? That you know, like even when you tell people, yeah, where is there like Sister Moko was saying, right? Where you from? I'm from Trinidad. Okay. So where's it? Like where are they from? Trinidad. Where's your dad from? Tobago. Well, like where's his ancestors from? Tobago. Like where else is he gonna be? No, but I mean before them. Yeah, like still there. You know, because they want to make that connection that you come from over there. When over there is not over there is still here because it's the same landmass. It's not two different land masses. You know, it's one conglomerate of people. You know, like simple
For
unification.
example, it's the same when you say West Indies,
Yeah.
right? Because in the Caribbean, it makes you feel as if it's somewhere different. But it's all is America, South.
Yeah.
So the way that you try to insult me, one white man tried to argue with me, and I argue back with him. Because he tried to tell me, oh, this Guyana, see why you're making it South. So I said, no, it's South America. I am an American. I'm not from the West Indies. So I was done with them. Yeah, because I'm claiming it. Can't be on the map, doesn't even see.
Exactly.
It's you know, it's crucial because it's a situation like going back to the movement of people who are indigenous saying, okay, you know what, we're gonna govern ourselves. We don't need like you guys. Right? So then, as they've been doing that over the world, the concept is like, how can we slow down the indigenous people here from doing that on whatever level they end up doing it? Because they've had a different standard of living, right? Higher levels of education. There was a republic that existed, right? That they actually assisted in. Now, if they start saying what other people are saying, but in a different way, or maybe according to this prophet who came, then, right? Like they're gonna have some success with that, right? But like it's a guarantee they're gonna have success because as long as they have the prophet at the forefront, then like you can't lose, right? But it's getting caught up in you know, which corporation, right? And then that's like when they ask you, you know, where, like they want to know which corporate African nation state that you're gonna like, like homie, like are you serious? These like, you know, like corporate boundaries that were created in, you know, I don't know, the 40s or the 50s. When logically, if I just told you like, you know, my grandparents were here, my great grandparents were here, then before that, it was a Moorish empire, right? So like, who just said one landmass, right? One landmass and also one empire. So from there, what's with all the questions, right?
Well, because everybody's been fed a lot.
But it's still not up to her. For some people places, they're going to ask you, where's your grandmother's name? Where's your grandfather's name? Where's your mother's name? Somebody tells me, so what all of this got to do with my grandmother, my grandfather? How we call it? I remember one time a Mormon come, and then this is the question he asked me, and I asked him, I said, what this got to do? It's tracking up to now. I asked him, this is a tracking movement because they got to track you. Yeah, and, to make certain that they get you in the settlement that you're nobody won't leverage you. You know? So they're still tracking up.
And another way to track is through the temple. If you reserve your rights and know yourself, and you're a part of, you know, the movement, and you're doing uplifting works, and which is really, more old Canaanite temple work, right? Then you'll know what the game is. You know what I mean? And that you're not liable to the things that people who don't do the work properly, right? And who just take it for, and we're just stuck in the corporate jurisdiction, right? Are liable to, because obviously they're not expressing it properly. If they're just going and singing hymns, then they can't rightfully say, well, I'm part of a society, a body politic, I'm a representative for all these people who are beneficiary to a trust, right? And you look up trust, and it says the declaration of a trust has been held to be an effective substitute for incorporation for its many advantages, which will undoubtedly shine though to the reader by the following table, right? I prepared this table based upon the work by John H. Sears, who, after discussing the impact of the twin landmark cases on the grave lack of profitability of using corporations for inter alia dealing in real estate, right, went to task in outlining the distinct benefits of express trusts. Right? And we're all beneficiaries of an express trust. So some of them are, express trust, governed under equity. Trust law is the most well-settled body of law in America. Corporation, governed under a statute, forever changing according to political agendas and schemes. That one right there, like, I don't even. Okay, so this is a table, right? So this is a table that this individual put together, and this is can be found in Weiss's Concise Trustee Handbook, right? We've been reading from before, the 2008 version. Express trust, right? So this is like the cons, the benefits. Governed under equity. Trust law is the most well-settled body of law in America. Corporation, governed under statute, forever changing according to political agendas and schemes. So, when there's, well, you guys are, your corporation is, restaurant, so you fall under this statute, and you need to follow these codes, and etc., etc. Right? Because it's a corporation governed under statute. A trust is governed under equity, right? Law.
No, and also too, keep in mind with the corporate entity that isn't us, right? The birth certificate fraud or whatever they want to call it, right? That's why you're reserving your rights anytime you use that thing, because it's corporate, right? And you don't want to attach yourself to it in the sense of you being it or exercising as it, right? But under a trust, right, you being the trustee, you entrust that thing because you have control of it, you have the leash, right? To be able to go out and, you could use that thing to go out and get a license if you need it, to go get a job because you have to drive trucks for it, or you could use it to go get some schooling so you can be able to, do whatever it is, the schooling, but that corporate side is just like it says, is according to political agendas and schemes. Yeah, because it's a scheme to say, I'm this corporation, when you're really not it, right? That's why you reserve your rights, because, out of private necessity, I'm running this fraud using paper money and all these fraudulent things. I'm not doing it because I want to do it, right? We're doing it because, we're under occupation. And being that we're under occupation, this is how we should be dealing with stuff from the trust perspective, because that's how everybody else is dealing with it. right? When other people come here, they know that this is a fiat system over here. So they're going to deal with it on fiat perspective. They're not going to deal with it like it's really money, and you know what I mean. Like that's why they had to create the thing where, you know, like if you get bankruptcy, right? You will say, okay, well, I'm going to file Chapter 11 or whatever bankruptcy, and then you file bankruptcy because you know you owe $80,000 or something, right? But after you file bankruptcy, you're free and clear for 7 years, and then you know you reestablish yourself or whatever. But how come nobody comes back for the stuff? How come the stuff's not repossessed? If there's a debt for it, and then the debt's not paid, and then the person files bankruptcy, then how are they getting to keep the stuff still? Like how come the company's saying we want the fiat, we don't want the stuff back?
Yeah.
Well, why? What is the reason why?
Right? Because the trust, that thing that was bought, it's under the trust of the one who said, here, I have the card that has the credit on it, so trust me, I'll keep it, right? But really and truly, that's ownership, right? The only problem is that those people didn't follow up and create a document saying that that's their property. They just, you know, think that it's theirs, you know. Right, exactly. That's why they could go in people's house, take their children out, right? Because the neighbor called and said, "Oh yeah, I heard crying, so I think they're abusing you." And then they're gonna come in and then take the child out. Right, the state has a claim in it too, because it's corporate. And in order to say I have a corporation, it has to be registered with the corporation that's saying that they're government, right? Because don't forget, they're not really government. Like the people are really the government, and they're really corporations, right? But people are voting for Nike, and then Nike won the presidential election, and then now Nike's the president of the United States of America.
So you see, when somebody is in business, it's all as a trust.
That'll be the way to do it.
If you're in a business,
if you do anything,
instead of a corporation,
set it up as a trust.
But what about like the part, you know, the corporation sometimes protect you against certain things? Because like you said, if for example, you don't have the money or whatever, you file up for bankruptcy, and you'll come after you. Yeah. Or for example, when you have a corporation, it's not like really you. So you could put everything under, it's like a person, right?
Right.
A corporation. So you could protect yourself too.
Yeah, but the trust is the higher person than the corporation. It's more protected in a trust than in a corporation, right? Because remember that you probably missed the beginning part, but we're talking about the corporation, right, of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that everybody pushes as that's what it's about, when there's really a trust, which is the Moorish Divine and National Movement, which is a way bigger jurisdiction than the Moorish Science Temple of America. So the Moorish Science Temple of America, being that it's only 11 months old when the Prophet passed away, it can't even make the claim that it's right, because it's not from 1913. That's from 1928.
You see, what I'm trying to understand is, why is it set up as a corporation? Why would it Moorish Temple be set up as a corporation or as a trust? Why is it for business wise? Is it for like
okay? First, you have to understand. Okay, some of the questions you had, like the difference between a trust and a corporation. In the notes on page 18 of the same book, Weiss's concise trustee handbook, um, we have okay. Although corporate officers reserve the relative right to plead the fifth, they have merely the relative right to plead the congressionally interpreted spirit of the amendment, not the letter of the law, due to their 14th Amendment citizenship. Yeah, I should repeat that. Although corporate officers reserve the relative right to plead the fifth, they have merely the relative right to plead the congressionally interpreted spirit of the amendment, not the letter of the law, due to their 14th Amendment citizenship. So there's a few assumptions there, right? And a few things to maybe get a definition. So the fifth, right, is the Fifth Amendment. Right? So what's the Fifth Amendment? It has to do with not saying anything. That would perjure yourself. So it says that they reserve the relative right to plead the fifth, but they actually only have a relative right to the congressionally interpreted spirit of the amendment, not the letter of the law. So they don't have the right to do exactly as the Fifth Amendment says. Because the Fifth Amendment is for natural people.
And there's no such thing as a relative right and rights and absolute. You don't compare them to something.
So then, really, it's just a privilege, which can be taken or changed, right? Like the other thing said.
No, instead of changed, amended.
Right?
Let me ask you a question.
Let me just finish the trust, because this is another sentence. So the next line says, trustees of an express trust have the absolute right to directly refuse self-discrimination as well as indirectly on a jurisdictional basis. See Liebbrobst al. Supra, Boyd versus U.S. Supra, and Silverstone Lumber Company versus U.S. Supra. So these are cases of, there's a company versus the U.S. So they probably lost. There's an individual versus the U.S. and some other individual. So this is case law. This is from Weiss's Concise Trustee Handbook, telling you, like, if you're a 14th Amendment citizen, then you're going to be limited, and you're going to be subject to amendments and changes and whatever, as it said, political agendas and schemes.
Right. And then that's why
they always do this change in laws all the time.
You will see, but then also too, that's why the Klan was killing niggers. Because the United States was trying to make niggers real people when they're actually 14th Amendment citizens. And they wanted to give them the status of a citizen. And the Klan stands for the Constitution. They're like, nah. You guys can't do that. What are you talking about? And then that's the war between the North and the South. Because the South is saying, okay, well, if you're going to say that they're people now, if they're going to be people now, then we should get compensated for selling it's not property. It's not some slaves. If you're going to make them real people, all right, okay, fine, cool. Then we have to get compensation if it's real people, because they're slaves. Like so are you gonna what? You're gonna make a slave a real person under the Constitution, which says that's not supposed to be done. It can only be done through naturalization.
Was anyone else, I don't know what the word, but categorized as the 3/5 of the first 14th Amendment besides our people?
Probably Hispanics and Indians and poor whites and you know,
And at present, unless you declare your nationality, then you're out. You're everyone. This is from 2008.
Mhm.
And although corporate officers reserve the relative right to plead the fifth, they have merely the relative right to plead the congressionally interpreted spirit of the amendment, not the letter of the law, due to their 14th Amendment citizenship. So it's assuming that everyone is 14th Amendment, which is the correct assumption. Right? So another thing on express trust, lifespan of 20 to 25 years at a time in order to avoid rules against perpetuities. Death of settler or trustee has no effect on life or affairs of trust. Succession of power is quiet and private.
Okay, the first part about the 20 to 25 years, that relates to trust?
So this is under express trust. A lifespan of 20 to 25 years at a time in order to avoid rules against perpetuities. Death of settler has no effect on life or affairs of trust. Succession of power is quiet and private. So the trust, embodied in the trust is, or attached to the trust is everything that Drew Ali said and even did and wrote down.
Mhm.
And he said it'll take you 50 years to understand what I brought you, and in 50 years, you won't know that I was here. 50 and 50 is 100, which is an increment of both 20 and 25.
Mhm.
Right? So it's the lifespan. When it says lifespan of 20 to 25 years at a time, it's at a time. So yeah, 20 years. There's probably 20 years after the prophet. There's probably nobody expressing the trust. But in the trust, it's said that the trust is forever for your children, and that it'll take you 50 years to understand anyway. So it's no, the trust exists, right?
Like, the trust can't be dissolved
Can be dissolved.
because of how it was set up by the trustee,
Yeah,
by the trusted, right? The initiator of it, right? The person who set it up in an express format so that the trustees are the beneficiaries.
Another thing, trustees are not required to file reports with any entity and are accountable only to the beneficiary, governed strictly under principles of equity. Okay. Business name is naturally protected by injunction. May also use trade name or trademark for trust purposes without registration.
Yeah, so when you have a trust account, you want to file for the trademark. That means.
Yeah, always right. So let's compare now. Corporation. Lifespan is perpetual or a certain number of years according to legislative requirements. Again, you know what I mean? Waiting on legislators to say you can do this, you can't do that. All officers' changes must be reported, which records are open for public view. As far as business license, the opposite is the case. So they're required to obtain a business license as a corporation. They're required to file statements and reports quarterly, etc. They must apply for and secure fictitious firm name and must register all trade names and trademarks. All federal excise tax and state organization. This is for a trust now. All federal excise tax and state organization and franchise taxes are legally avoided. Right? For a corporation, the opposite is the case, except for state taxes in certain states. In either respect, all corporations are taxed indirectly via inflation.
I'm sorry, but did you say that all taxes can be avoided?
For a trust.
For trust?
Yeah. Now,
how can we do that?
because it's natural. It's in the realm of natural people. It's trust. Me and you. I trust you. Okay. I trust. All right. You want to give me some gold? I'll hold it for you. All right. Cool. You want to watch my land for me for 10 years? I'm going on a mission.
Well, when you set up a trust account, who do you go see to set it up? I don't
Okay.
Yeah, like what? Okay, when you talk about going and filling out something, right? You either have to apply or you either have to register, right? No, for setting up something, like you're saying, like how are we gonna get the documentation or whatever. Once you have to go get documentation and all that stuff from somebody, that's corporate. Then that's not where you want to be, because that's the part of political. Yeah, right.
Agendas
right?
and schemes.
Political agendas and schemes are in the corporate part. So you don't want to go there. You could go there, you know what I mean? Because yeah, there's some benefits there that you can get, you know what I mean? Like there's people who go in there and benefit all the time. You know what I'm saying? Right? But it'll be better if you just go the trust route and save yourself the hassle of eventually bumping into the scheme. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna get this, there's gonna be some sort of level of, it's like when we first started like a non-profit. You know what I mean? Like, we started a non-profit because, okay, well, logically, it's non-profit, then, everything we do is just gonna go back to this or whatever, right? But, and then there's like grants that you can apply for, whatever. And because of the nature of what we were dealing with, like, no, you guys can't get what you want. You know what I mean? You're just gonna have to be out there grinding because you're not getting anything from the pot. Yeah. Which we don't wrong them, because that's how I wouldn't support this either if I was them, because them supporting this means it's the dethrone of them.
Where can I get like all the knowledge? Let's say I have a business and my business gets to a certain level and I want to set up a trust account. Like, where do I get the knowledge for this? Because I know that you come in and me about municipality taxes.
Well, before you do that, you have to nationalize.
That's the very first step.
That's the first thing,
because a 14th Amendment citizen can't
do anything.
Do a trust under common law.
So you guys won't have any book or nothing that shows you like everything that's included like in the trust.
Like this is the Weiss's Concise Trustee Handbook. This is about trust, right? But like you said, you need to nationalize first, because then you're reading all these benefits, and you don't have the status to
even exercise them, to access them, which is what our problem is. Majority of the time, our status, which is what we try to tell people. That it's about your status.
So then you actually can change your status to more status in the government more than let you do that. Let us be, but I already know that.
You're more.
Do it. Yeah, I know it's more like technically more, but I'm saying like when people change their status, when do they go to change their status? Yeah, you just need to know what.
It's the same thing like with the trust. Once you have to go for somebody to do it, then that's corporate. Once you have to go and say, can I have a form for the quote unquote?
Yeah, but how do you nationalize? Then how if this dude comes to me and tell me, yo, you can't set up a trust account?
Yeah, we'll see, but
right? How do you tell him, no, I've been nationalized, I'm a more, I'm saying that,
because you wouldn't be going to them in the first place for anything if you set up your trust.
No, yeah. But if you come into me, if they see me, this is a successful man. Whoever successful man.
No, but if you're, okay, let's say that. Okay, if they see a successful black man, right, and say, yo, this guy is successful, he has a trust set up, he has whatever, then they own it, because black people don't have anything because of his status. If his status is black and he tries to have a trust, to set up a trust, like when somebody has the killing, right? A killing happens, and then somebody, we set up a trust for the victim, and if you want to put money into the trust, you can put it in this account to this whatever, TD Bank, whatever, right? That trust that they're putting the money into isn't the family. That's the corporation that owns that all capital letters name that's on the bank account or on the trust account. Because their status in setting it up in the first place was messed up. So they are so they went to the wrong avenue to set it up in the first place. Right?
So it's like a lot of that's not something you can learn everything.
No, it's not. No, it's not no one day thing. Yeah, it's not no one day thing. But then that's why this was supposed to be done from 1913. You wouldn't have to be trying to, you know what I mean? Cram, you know what I mean? Cram everything in right now. You would have had at least, you know, 3/4 of it, and that other quarter that the sellouts, you know, whatever, you know, we just pick that up. And because there's nothing about Noble Drew Ali that people, common people, shouldn't be able to know. You know what I mean? Just like I say, who's Gary? Who's Jay-Z? Who's Eminem? Who's whatever? And everybody else be like, yeah, that's the guy. And then that's the guy. Who's Noble Drew Ali?
That's true. He's all known for everything he did.
Who's that? I don't know. Who's that guy? Is he real? Is he, you know, what is he? I never heard that name before. Right? And then that's Noble Drew Ali. If you say Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, you're going into a whole other thing that they don't even, that's not even on their radar mentally. You know? Certain information is in mental oblivion to some people. Like they don't even know where to go in their mind to retrieve what they just heard. It's just lost in this space of the mind. This vacuum that's gone. Can't remember, no inkling of anything, just gone. Absent from the mind. That's what they wanted to do. Have it just like how it is right now. They say, hey, yo, you ever heard about Noble Drew Ali? Noble Drew Ali? Who's that? And then they say it like, who's that? Like, like, you know what I mean? I ask you who the devil is or something. You know? Right? You know,
how many books, how much time do you think that this master? The basic also.
as far as what? Because
as far as you know, the whole thing about the trust.
it's not, it's standard. You know what I mean? It's just like,
see, the part I don't understand is if you say, for me to set up a trust account, you have to nationalize first.
Yeah.
To nationalize, I don't need no document or nothing like that. What I'm trying to understand is if they come at me then and they tell me, oh, you have to pay taxes, you have to, if the government comes at me, then how can I tell them?
They could.
Sorry.
No,
What I was going to say is, you have children?
Yeah, one.
Okay. This is what you got to do. It's not about you anymore. You got to think long range. Alright? Forget the trust for today. Talk about trust for the future now. 3 days information theory. Learn what you need to learn. Information theory. And then that's how you're going to evolve. It's not about you. It's been 100 years, thousands of years of falling off. You ain't going to do it in one day and sit down. It's just deep work, man.
It is, man.
You got to start thinking long range. This is strategic. You're trying to play checkers. And that's how they got us. That's the whole story of the prodigal son, him in the swine pit eating all that stuff. And he's like, yo, bridge it. You have to come to your senses and say, yo, certain things have to wake up in you. There's certain things that you haven't woken up. And it's not going to wake up just by you just reading certain things. It's like you're seeking things. You know what I'm saying? So then you'll come to your senses. Then when they come to you and say, rate-tay-tay, yo, you don't even speak. It's the ether speaking through you. And you just fire them down. And they just say, yo, oh. Yeah. They just leave you alone.
just one.
It's true.
And remember too, Noble Drew Ali said he did everything right? And he was holding up Circle 7 and the 101. Right? In Circle 7, chapter 47, right, says that Canaanites, Moabites, Hittites sojourned from the land of Canaan before the great earthquake. And they received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in these lands. Right? That's what a natural person puts their trust in, right? And he was holding up also this, right? The back of the 101s, right? For the corporate people. So it's natural people, corporate people. He was holding up both. Like salvation. Like even if you're a dirty Moor, yeah, you can, here come, you could use this.
You might be dirty, but you're still a Moor.
Moor says step over America, right? But when you,
not disowning the family.
Yeah, yo, you can't disown the
Right.
dirty ones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
and as you come in, like you're gonna be at the level of the dirty Moors, because dirty Moors limit their thinking, right? Because they're below, right? It's up to you whether you want to stay there, right, or move on to be able to do like brother said, right?
When you say the Canaanite, you speak more of the children of Israel, it's Jerusalem.
Well, yeah, because everywhere, go in the Bible, everywhere you see Israel, the Canaanites are always there, right? And they're one with them, or they're living beside them, or intermingling, right? Right. So, but really, it's like what is it, Israel? They're just people in that area who, we're gonna stick to this like religious thing. We're gonna stick to it hard. Right? They were different from the Canaanites or the Amorites or all the other Moors. Right? There's Moors in that area. Right? And then it just got to a condition where, for whatever reason, right, partly because it was just desert, probably didn't want to live there. Hold on, there's all that. Yeah, let's go over there. The Pharaoh said, okay, you do it. Now science is qualifying all that stuff. You don't need to argue with anybody.
And that was the giving of the culture when the Moors adopted the ancient Egyptian culture. That was it. When the pharaohs gave the Moabites permission to go into the Americas and North Africa, right? That was the transfer of the ownership of the empire, because Egypt was the capital. That's where Pharaoh. Nobody's not going to deny that. That's where the pharaohs come from, Egypt. All right, so that was the capital, and the people in the capital, no different than the people in Ottawa or Washington D.C. or whatever, saying that, yo, these people over here, we're gonna send them over there, and that's theirs over there. Don't bother them. Right? The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourn from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across the great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake, which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. And then he goes on again to say, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, colored race attached to the human family, because all of the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan.
Means it's Canaan is the same thing.
When we have to look at the geographical location called Earth as one landmass, right? That's what it is. It's one landmass. And it's just like if you go ask somebody in Australia, they're going to say that that's where stuff founded, where civilization was founded. If you go somebody in India, they're going to say that's where civilization was founded. If you go to Asia somewhere, they're going to say that's where civilization. If you ask the natives, they're going to say that's where civilization was founded. Because it was everywhere. You know, the Garden of Eden is Earth, not a little part of the Earth. That doesn't make sense, yeah? Like the first thing God created is this little box. Right? And put the people in there. And then everywhere else is just barren. The sand all around this little box with a river in it and a waterfall or something. And a tree. You know? The whole planet is the Garden of Eden. And everybody's claim is legitimate. You know? So once we start, like, because remember, right? Noble Drew Ali is creating unity. He said that the human family, all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the land of Canaan. All inhabitants of Africa, right? Okay, so if he says all inhabitants of Africa, we have to ask him, well, when he says Africa, what is he talking about? Is he talking about the continent? Everybody over there? Or is he talking about over here? Because over here is Africa too. If over there's Africa. If over there's Africa, then over here is Africa. Because here was connected to there. Right? So, the inhabitants of Africa, all the inhabitants of Africa, were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan. Right? If all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race and descendants of the Canaanite nation from the land of Canaan, that means Canaan was first. And then that's why he said Old Canaanite Temple, and that was first. Because Old Canaanite Temple is the foundation of the Moorish movement. And then it tells you that the Canaanites, Hittites, and the Moabites. And then when you read the 101 questionnaire, it's going to tell you, what is your nationality? Moorish American. Why are we Moorish American? Because we are descendants of Morocco, born in America. Okay, and then it's going to say, well, what nationality was Ruth? Then Ruth was a Moabitess. Okay, what's the modern name of Moabites? Moroccans. So Moabites are Moroccans, then Moroccans are Moorish American. And the Moabites are brethren with the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites. All one big happy family. Right? And we go on from there. But until we get there, like, this is what it's about. Dissecting everything, breaking everything down, because it has to get broken down. Yeah. So, just another note. We'll just touch on the Constitution. It's going to close out soon, but
Just get the Constitution, talk about the Constitution of the United States of America. So, a note on page 19 of the trustee handbook says, for an understanding of the profound superiority of Article 4, Section 2, citizenship over 14th Amendment citizenship, see Brobst et al. Supra. So that's a note for what it says here, which is a trust may function as an Article 4, Section 2 citizen of the United States via its trustee, not a 14th Amendment citizen. The citizen is understood in constitutional law as the private citizen. Okay? Whereas corporation is a 14th Amendment citizen, regardless of citizenship of corporate officer. Generally, state corporations require officers to be citizens as well. This citizen is inherently public due to the nature of the amendment. So corporations are citizens, 14th Amendment citizens. And the officers, that like the people who, the managers and stuff, are also 14th Amendment citizens. A trust, right, is an Article 4, Section 2 citizen, according to the United States of America Constitution. Right? And then you as a trustee or a beneficiary, you're going to be also a private citizen as a beneficiary and a trustee to that trust. But if you're not, then you can't attach yourself to it. Right? And so, what is an Article 4, Section 2 citizen? Article 4, Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. Right? Dred Scott too. Dred Scott. Right. So the trust, right, falls under that authority as a citizen, right, or is connected to that. And so, in order for you to exercise, like it says, the privileges and immunities, you have to be a natural person. You have to be yourself.
Can't be a fiction.
Can't be a fiction.
Yeah, they're artificial.
You got that thing? You have it there? Let's put this on the record, guys. So this is one of the brothers out here that started coming to class and basically wanted to put this on the record and have the Moors basically back him up in sending this message out, because he's a studier of Minister Farrakhan, and you know, hearing what we're presenting made him question something, right? So we're going to be sending this also too as you know, as an email. We're going to send this out, but we're also just going to put it on the record now, so that people can know that what, you know, where we're taking our activity, right? Right. Assalamu alaikum, dear Minister Farrakhan. First, I would like to start this letter by telling you how much respect I hold for your teachings and of the Nation of Islam. My name is Dimitri Yobi, and I am a Muslim. Although I do not attend the mosque and am not an official member of any group such as the NY or of Moorish Science Temple, with all respect to those groups. Still I am a Muslim by definition of what the Quran states and not what man states. I have spent several years learning from Orthodox Muslim scholars and NY lecturers. I believe that all sources of knowledge, the planets, is power, and that as long as it is in accordance with the Quran, the Sun, it is beneficial to all mankind. In this past month, I have for the first time met with some black Muslim Moors who have introduced me to Moorish laws and some of the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. The chamber of knowledge they have presented me with has caught me by surprise because up to that point I thought I had the science of black history figured out. Several debates took place at the end of these meetings/classes, the topic being you, the Nation of Islam, and the reasoning as to why the NOI have left out this very valuable piece of information, and since your team already knew about it but chose not to bring it up. These debates evolved around 3 points. 1. The teachings of Noble Drew Ali. 2. Proclaiming of Moorish nationality. And 3. The connection between the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Temple of Islam, which became the Nation of Islam. It is important for me to mention that I played the role of your lawyer during these debates with explanation such as the fact that it is not your job to do everything, and that your teachings are the very source that gets people ready to digest and understand the chamber of knowledge of the Moorish laws, among other points. The Moorish brothers played the prosecutor, raising points such as those 3 mentioned above, as well as other not mentioned, and this is what has pushed me to write this letter to clear the air in my conscience. The point was that although NOI could not teach everything on their own, they should have at least pointed the masses out to different Moorish scholars who would have been able to take it to the next level of their knowledge, much like how you mentioned and brought up things from Scientologist scholars that could be beneficial for the nation. I'm asking you to organize a date in which we can set up a video conference of no more than 30 minutes with myself, you, and the Moors. It's important for me to mention the Moorish Brothers are the first organization of its kind in the city of Toronto, which is where I'm writing from. And since it is a non-profit organization, our budget is limited and cannot surpass more than $200. It is our hope that you will get back to us with a positive response in regard to this request, in the understanding that this is to be done for the benefit of the nation and in the spirit of resolving this conflict instead of a divided mentality. Please contact and email for anybody else is johndoex_25 So John Doe, JOHNDOEX_25 @hotmail.com. So, and this is going to be some of the activity. Give thanks, Jeff. This is going to be some of the activity that Canaanland Moors are going to be starting to do. Right, creating a paper trail and reaching out to these people to bring them into the fold, because really it's about, whatever it is that you're doing. We're not saying don't do that. We're saying do it in a free national name. Even if you want to call it black something, cool. At least have a free national name talking that black stuff. So you can at least have some type of remedy based on your status. Not based on what you say or how you say it or what books you have, but because of your status. Because the first issue at law, the first thing that's going to come up is going to be status. Like bottom line. Right? So we give thanks for Brother Dimitri for taking that initiative, which is what we hope majority of people that never heard about Noble Drew Ali before and come into this information, question your teachers and your leaders as to how come this information is not presented, so you can find out for yourself why it's not being presented, because it applies to every single school of thought. The nationality and birthrights issue. Was there any questions or anything like that before we? Everybody's good and clear. All right. So tomorrow again.
Yeah. Once again, we give thanks to all active Moors. I rise and give thanks to the Prophet. Thanks to Allah, the great God of the universe. And 5 on the left and 2 on the right. Close out the meeting with a prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Mother and Father of love.
Mother and Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Freedom.
And justice. Allah is our protector.
Allah is our protector.
Our guide. And our salvation. By night. And by day. Through his and her holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Amen. Ameen. Ashe. Hotep. Sila. Islam. Moors.
Islam Moors.